Hey guys, so this is Tuesday evening, you can say, and it's day 3, so let's carry on. Um, and I'll just continue with what we were discussing. I'm going to log in now with AWS, and I'll go for AWS console. So I'll just type that there, AWS Management Console, and so I'll just sign in here. Root user, created regular user as well there. And in last class, we did a lot of users and groups related tasks. I had saved this Gmail because I tend to forget then what was the root user that I was logging in from. And I think I did save the password and MFA. Okay, there you go. Oh, man. Okay, I'll just open the Google Authenticator, although it does use any other authenticator as well. Auths. And I have 6 numbers popping up. Yeah, 01360. Submit. All right. So once we are logged in, we do have our favorite area, that is billing. So we always visit there. Although in last class we created a billing alert as well. So I'm just gonna go to the top right here, and then I'm gonna go for billing dashboard first of all, just to visit the billing area and check if there are no surprises or we didn't miss any emails. Total number of active AWS regions 3, and so view your bill is showing here. View your bill. I'm gonna click that, and okay, not bad. 0 is not bad. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead to the left side here. On the left side, we have services, and we were going through the identity and access management, IAM. We had done, I'm just going to go ahead and click that. If it's not showing here, then you can actually type here as well in the search, and this is the one. Or if you want to go to services, all services, and then view all services as well, then among 100 plus services. So we've seen security and identity compliance. This is IAM. So wherever you click, it's the same place, I think, for IAM. So I've clicked it, and that's what we were talking about last time. We had changed our account alias as well to Cloud Dash Engineers Academy instead of just the ID, and then so the whole URL that our users can use to log in becomes then this one, where they could recognize instead of a number, they recognize the actual name of the company. Suppose it was a company. And then we also configured MFA here, and then we created. Then we went to the left side. We started creating groups, and we started discussing the step-by-step process for that. We went for users. We created users as well and added to the groups. Then we talked about roles, and we created one role here, just to as an example. Then we went for policies, and we created our own desktop support policy as well, and tried to go in depth with okay, what are the sections of policies? What it does really offer? What kind of permissions we can configure? What are the possibilities there? And we talked about identity providers as well, and here, yeah, we were talking about that how can we connect AWS to Google or AWS to Facebook, and so this is something that And then we talked about the purpose of that too. And this is kind of a pretty long lab, so that's why I shared that URL. If I go to the LMS here and okay, LMS and previous page. So and then courses. Oh, okay. So I'll have to go through all that. Curriculum. So yeah, you don't see that is it this way. This is just the admin portion of that. So here, if I go edit and open the last slide, oh yeah, I should have gone the other way. I was in the folder structure in this. So what I'm trying to show here is that in last slide, um, I had shown, I had put up a link here. That is how to set up federated single sign-on to AWS using Google Workspace. So we talked about the detailed purpose of this, and I need to actually go through this lab. It is step by step, and obviously, if you just simply follow the steps, with certain troubleshooting that does arise, just click that link. So how to set up IAM federation using Google Workspace. So basically, between AWS and Google Cloud Workspace, which are supposed to be different companies with the different number of employees that want to connect to each other. So uh, external identities feature. So if that's what we're talking about, identity providers. Just we discussed it in detail. I'm just giving a refresher, and then we're going to go ahead. So identity providers is just that two companies, maybe with different AWS accounts, even same different AWS accounts, or one AWS and one non-AWS account, which is Facebook or Google or any, maybe LinkedIn. So you want to connect to them between each other. So AWS has provided pretty long steps there and explain that how the users from one side can actually connect. So that's something I added here. I will try to record this whole thing separately as a lab and upload it as a video that you can follow. But in the class, obviously, it's going to be pretty long. I will have to be 2.5 classes to finish the lab. And then obviously, these are the perfect environment steps when we start doing it. So it becomes a little more trickier. Also, you do need to purchase a Google Workspace license as well for this. Though no third-party certificate purchasing is involved, otherwise that's another $200 just to purchase that. So yeah, that's one long lab, and I intend to at least complete it separately and make a video for it so you can follow how I did it and what kind of problems I had to face for that. I had connected my where I work, oh, where I work there. It's a Microsoft shop, and we have some AWS services in contracts. In other contracts, I do connect with AWS. They have a lot of resources there where I work. So I had connected with single sign-on third-party sites there that where was needed. So it's pretty much the same documentation that each vendor provides, and then you connect it to either if you're a Microsoft shop, then Azure. If you're in AWS, these are the same documentation that we follow to connect to different entities. We discussed about it in detail and I explained in diagrams as well, the whole concept. So I'm just going to be back here, but I'll be I do have to create that video for Azure as well. It's easier to do it when you have a purchase license with any of the vendors than when you get the free trial account. And then the problem is that SSO feature, single sign-on feature that connects the two different AWS to non-AWS and Azure to non-Azure. In the trial account, they don't really let us use independently SSO. So that's why it has always been an issue. bring a lab for that because you need to purchase a license for the other entity. Guys, so yes, this is something that I do plan to create because I'm also playing those live videos as well, recorded videos of certain things on my channel. So I'll be playing it soon as well and let you know. So other than identity providers, there is account settings. And account settings is pretty straightforward here when it comes to password policy. But obviously, you need to visit your organization's password policy. Now, pretty much everything pretty much is in cloud. Some companies have multiple clouds, so you might see Microsoft Azure and AWS in the same company. In my company, we are a Microsoft shop, but we do use very less AWS as well. I mean, like it's Route 53 service, the DNS service, and sometimes just storage of that or S3. We have long labs coming for S3 as well. So the thing is that whichever single cloud provider you have, or if you have multiple cloud providers, suppose you have Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure as well. So in that case, obviously the password policy would be something that you would write down in your document, which would be a compliance document for the company, and what kind of minimum password complexity you would want, you would have to strictly follow that. So obviously here it says this AWS account uses the following default password policy. So it says that password minimum length is 8 characters, so it's already kind of strong. Password strength is include a minimum of three of the following. So uppercase, lowercase, numbers. Yeah, it includes all those characters. So it's kind of already good in terms of difficulty. So, but if you want to even make it more difficult, then you can click the edit button here, and then you can go for IAM default, which is this, which is already good. Otherwise, you can go custom, and then you can select, no, I want even 15 characters here, and then I also want this, some of this, some of that, some of this, and turn on password expiration. Password expiration requires administrative reset. So all these, you can even make it very much more stricter than it already is. So I'm going to click cancel out of here. And then there is just a security token. STS is used to create and provide trusted users with temporary security credentials that can control access to your AWS resources. So when you're logging in, at that time, a security token or some kind of security information is created with some temporary, uh, digits as well. It's just like when I logged in, so there was, I had to put six temporary numbers there, right, for MFA. So just like that, there are for security token service, there are security tokens or temporary security information is created, and that is saved in your region. So what am I connecting to right now? It's global, but whichever region next I connect to, so you can save that temporary security information. So as soon as you log out, that information is removed, and then when you log in again, some new security token with new random alphanumerical values are created for you for that particular session as long as you're logged in. So we don't really need to change any of the STS related settings. Whichever region you connect, your temporary security information is saved there. You stay logged in, when you log out is removed. So it's all handled by AWS. They're just saying that if you want to change where you want to save, which region you want to save, that security, temporary security information that gets created when you log in to AWS. So this information, or maybe you don't want that, oh, when I connect from Europe, Ireland, then, would save my information in that region, security information for my login session. So it's kind of that. Normally, we don't touch it if we don't really need it. But if you want to be very, very, maybe it's a military institute, maybe it's some totally sensitive institute, then maybe you can go in depth. Otherwise, we don't really change. Yes, password policy is something that You can always revisit according to your company compliance policies. Okay. Then there is um, Access Analyzer. So if we go for Access Analyzer here, obviously, as the word says, it's going to analyze access. Hence the word Access Analyzer. Not a big deal, but analyze what? Uh, Access. Who accessed at what time, how long, and what was access? So there's a lot of questions here that would need to be answered. So I'm just gonna close that and open this. Okay. In IAM, there is Access Analyzer. There's also that we already talked about IAM account settings. It's more about password policy here. Password policy, right? In fact, if I go back here, account settings. It was showing the password policy. I'm just going to click the info page that shows this. Then there's a more detailed one. That's where it would be considered a good read. So I'm just going to copy that link here for more detailed information. I'll be also providing some interview questions about AWS. And actually, they are already on my channel, but also exam questions later as I get from some of my sources. Hopefully, I do get the latest ones. Otherwise, there are some paid sources as well, which are very, very good, which I will let you know as well for exam preparation. Okay, I'm just going back to this where it's Access Analyzer. Now, Access Analyzer is, if I just go back here to this, so there's Access Analyzer. Now, it would analyze access of who connected to what for how long. So create an analyzer. You can set the scope for the analyzer to an organization or an AWS account. This is your zone of trust. The analyzer scans all of the supported resources in your zone of trust. You can tell AWS what is your zone of trust. Is it either the organization or is it an AWS account? Oh, what's the difference? It used the word organization here, which is actually an upcoming um, topic. But what really happens here is that one, so suppose it's a big company, right? And you have actually a big company has multiple AWS accounts, right? So a big company has multiple AWS accounts, and those accounts are multiple AWS accounts. Now, suppose you have AWS account one with CC, which is credit card information, MasterCard or Visa card, for production environment. And then you have another AWS account that is AWS account two. Suppose you can name it anything, CC, but this is for test environment. So this is not production where actual business services are working. This is just a test environment, which where you first test something and then you deploy it in production, right? First you test, then you deploy here. And here, suppose you have, since it's a big company, so it could be that you have actually two. Now this could be account three, but this is also production, right? So now there are three accounts, sometimes five, sometimes even 10 AWS accounts Uh, Sometimes there are five, or sometimes there are 10 AWS accounts there for one company. Production, UAT test, dev environment as well. So then AWS suggests that, oh, how would you maintain all these AWS accounts uh, for one company or multiple company, doesn't matter, but multiple. How can you maintain multiple AWS accounts, either for one company or more, with the help of for one company? Um, so centrally, and that's where the answer is AWS Organization. So this is a service. Um, This service lets us centrally manage multiple AWS accounts. Now, you can see that there are multiple credit cards connected here, right? So there is a credit card for prod environment one. You can just name it also prod one, and then prod two, and then maybe test one, test two, maybe dev, which is development where you can do whatever you want. Dev 1, Dev 2, Dev 3. Maybe there are database one environment that just has databases. Other environment has some other kind of automated applications. So whatever different type of AWS accounts are there, you are supposed to go for AWS organization to centrally manage all AWS accounts. Suppose you don't have that AWS organization, what we need to do is you need to obviously remember then the username password of this AWS account, log in and maintain and manage, and this, and suppose you have six more AWS accounts, then you'll have to manage all those AWS accounts. So that's why you use the feature called AWS organization for this. Now, if I go back here, it says you can set the scope for the analyzer to an organization, which means, so do you want to analyze access of users on the organization level? Which means, oh, you want to analyze access of users, which user connected to part one AWS account, when did that user connect? Who connected? Um, when connected? How long connected? Right? So there could be many other events that you can, um, you know, configure in Access Analyzer. But if it is access, obviously, then who, when, and how long, right? And what kind of authorization is there? Obviously, then more details arise from that as well, and whether an access analyzer lets you, know, see that information as well, that who had what kind of authorization. That still needs to be understood. So the thing is that, hit Alt Tab and go back to the screen. Do you want to have access analyzing on organization level or just an AWS account level? So you want to analyze access on just one account level. Maybe you just are interested in this one because this is broad, or maybe these two, either prod one and prod two, right? But you're not interested in whoever accessed test, or you don't want detailed reporting on that, but you do want it for part one and part two. So is it organization level, which comprises of all the AWS accounts that are added to AWS organization service, or is it just one or two accounts that you want access analyzing to be done for? So what is your scope? That's what it's saying here. So you can set the scope for the analyzer to an organization or an AWS account. This is your zone of trust. Whatever you tell analyzer is considered your zone of trust. And this means that whoever logs in here, okay, now review active findings. Then Access Analyzer does the second thing, review active findings. And when Access Analyzer finds policy that allows access to a resource from outside of your zone of trust, it generates an active finding. Findings include details about the access so that you can take action. So the main word here to emphasize is, okay, people are connecting, but which type of people it will be alerting you for? So it says that's the main word that we need to emphasize here, outside. Oh, okay. First, you create a zone of trust. You say that, oh, the whole organization is my zone of trust, or one AWS account is my zone of trust. Then, is there anyone who's connecting from outside into your organization or your AWS account? So it has to be someone from outside. So suppose you have here, if I go back here to this, suppose you have created here maybe 200 users, and uh, you mentioned here that this AWS account one, uh, this is this is our zone of trust. This is our zone of trust. So you consider this, suppose, your zone of trust. Now those, if this AWS account is your zone of trust, and 200 users are inside created this account, then when any of the 200 users log into this account, you will not be alerted. Anyone who connects from outside to this AWS account, then you will be alerted. So anyone connecting from outside, outside of your zone of trust, then access analyzer will um, alert you, right? So it comes down to this, right? Now, that's what it says here. And then findings. So the when Access Analyzer finds a policy that allows access to a resource from outside of your zone of trust, it generates an active finding. So it's a policy that you create for somebody to let in from outside of your zone of trust, right? The findings include details about the access so that you can take action. So it will initiate finding, an active finding, and that will include who accessed from outside. Uh, Take action if the access is intended. You can archive the finding so that you can focus on reviewing active findings. So you can immediately, suppose you say that, oh yeah, the guy is from now from another AWS account, guy accessed our account, but it was intended. So suppose there is an AWS account here, AWS account one, AWS account one, and then there is AWS account two. So if there, so there are, suppose, 1 or 200 users here, and maybe uh, 60 users here, suppose. So one of the users from here to here, and this is your suppose zone of trust. You've created that zone of trust here, right? Zone of trust. So in that case, anyone connecting from outside, then will be considered an active finding. So active finding will be created, which means kind of an alert is created there, and then if you say that if that oh that user John here, John connected, okay, yeah, actually there was a plan for John to be connected here at this from this time to this time. He connected. Yes, it was expected. I'll archive this finding. So suppose a finding was created in the alert, so you will archive it because it was expected. You don't want it in the active findings or active alerts. you already know that it was expected, right? But if some unexpected user connected, then you will keep that finding active, and well, you can then investigate and ask that person or his or her manager. So that's how the Access Analyzer really works. If we go here, well, that's we were talking about Access Analyzer, uh, IAM feature, right? Okay, so if we go ahead, I'm just gonna switch to the other page, and there's a learn more here as well, and there's a create analyzer here, so we're gonna check that out as well. For that, I'll just click that here and put that information as a good read. I'm just gonna go back here and go back to our environment. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we were here. So there is more information here. Monitor access to your resources. Access Analyzer helps you identify potential security risks in your AWS environment by analyzing the resource-based policies applied to resources within your zone of trust. Access Analyzer identifies any policy that allows access to those resources by a principal that isn't within your zone of trust. Again, it's the outsider, right? A principal that accesses your zone of trust from outside, it generates a finding. Okay, so we get that. I'm just going to click the create analyzer. We always just go ahead and explore a little all the services. Either it's a full lab or it's just exploring what's inside and what it asks. Right now, I'm connected to the region US East North Virginia, but so either uh, just either okay. So here, console analyzer and some ID has been created here. A zone of trust is current account. It says that hey, by default, the account that you're logged in from, we are automatically considering it as zone of trust, which makes sense. That's the only thing we have here. Some companies have just one account, right? So yes, it's already so anyone connecting from outside another AWS account to this AWS account, if then there will be an active finding that will be created here automatically. So it's by default saying that okay, your zone of trust is your account. Either it could be organization, which means multiple AWS accounts centrally managed, or just one AWS account. So this is just one AWS account we have. You can put tag here as well if you want. This is tag is just extra information, which is always very useful when you are doing that. Okay, David has a question in the chat. Is the Access Analyzer similar to Advisor in Azure? Um, Advisor does automated recommendations in Microsoft Azure. Yes, it is. Advisor also does technical recommendations, security recommendations. So it's a mixture. It's automated. Yes, it is kind of like that, exactly. Otherwise, there are many other security tools in Azure as well. Monitor just the access as well. So yes, Advisor can be considered one of them as well from Microsoft Azure. We can compare that, but this is only for access analyzing, while Microsoft has multiple tools for that. Other than Advisor, there are other multiple tools. We will be actually starting Microsoft Azure Security this Saturday. So obviously, we'll be going through a lot of tools there, security tools for Microsoft Azure. So definitely Advisor is one of them, but not exactly. It does much more than that. Okay, so here, suppose key value, what do you put there? You can put anything. Suppose, oh, who's the manager of this, project? Okay, suppose about the manager. And which branch do you belong to? Suppose we say Toronto. So this is just, you get the idea that what is tags? Tags are keys and values. You can keep on putting information. So suppose it's a huge amount of, another says in the chat, is this a monitor tool? Yes, it is for monitoring, exactly. Monitoring access. It's analyze, access, monitoring, exactly. But monitoring, there's a separate service called CloudWatch, which is the real monitoring service. This is just for who accessed from outside of AWS to AWS resources. So ultimately, yes, it is monitoring. Okay, so here, branch Toronto, and whatever you want to put there, you keep putting there. Project um, 007. Okay, that was a project here, right? Uh, just giving you an example of, okay, you can put some information there always. It's always a good idea because when you created thousands and thousands of configurations, sometimes it's hard to find a particular configuration unless you have put some kind of related information to the configuration. So this configuration was ordered by who? Manager belonging to which branch, which department. So there could be a department here, there could be technical skill related something here as well. You can put as much information as you want in terms of tags, right? So I'm just going to go for, so it says when you enable Access Analyzer, a service linked role is created in the current account. The service linked role grants permission to Access Analyzer to interact with AWS resources on your behalf. So remember that we talked about roles in the last class, that one role gets permission on your behalf to do what it's supposed to for a service. A service gets a role. Now we are giving analyzer service or access analyzer service a role, or a role will be automatically assigned to it. Role does what? Gives some kind of permissions to a service. So what does policy do? Policy also gives permission to user or group. Role also gives permission to a service. Right? So a role is being assigned to Access Analyzer, and that Access Analyzer will obviously do monitoring of any outsider connecting to this AWS account on our behalf. That's what it's going to do. So I'm going to click Create Analyzer. Like it's kind of you have just enabled a security guard or activated a security alert or told or hired a security guard. Hey, you security guard, thank you very much. Please stand outside this door and let us know if any outsider enters our premises. Right? That's pretty much what you did just now or doing now. You just hired a security guard and it's gonna create some alert and let you know, if someone outside is here. So, right, that's pretty straightforward kind of thing. So once it is enabled, it's whenever it happens, suppose no one connects from outside of AWS to this AWS account for next 5 years. For next 5 years, there are not going to be any alerts here, right? So whenever it happens, then only you get to know. Obviously, archive rules, yeah, you can, if there were some alerts here, findings here, it was expected, you can archive them, you create archive rules for that, that whenever there's a finding that is expected, just archive it. I mean, save it for long backup or back it up kind of thing. So I'm going to create an archive rule. Archive is just there to save information. Maybe later you want to know. So it is also kind of so some public access is there. That what is the criteria that you want to archive? Suppose somebody connected from a specific source IP, and this is the IP of your Toronto branch. So if some user, suppose, is connecting from a Toronto branch whose IP is this, then it is expected those guys in Toronto branch are supposed to connect to AWS account. So I don't consider them outsider as such. So suppose you add this criteria there, that archive anyone who is connecting from this specific source IP Archive means I don't want to, actively investigate it because I'm expecting connections from Toronto branch. So if it connects from this source IP, which is IP, suppose, of our Toronto branch, I archive them. I don't want to see them all. I already expect them to be connecting it. So it's nothing new, no news for me. Right? So you can go for any of these criteria that if this is the criteria, somebody connects from Facebook app ID, somebody connects from a source account. If this account is there, then archive it automatically. I don't want to investigate that. So that kind of rules you can create here, right? Uh, and then remove this criterion and dash remove this criterion. So the thing is that there's a rule, either there's an and here, this type of access and this type of access is there, then archive it. So however you want to put it that whatever rule you create here will follow that rule. If this rule matches, the finding will be archived, right? Which means you're not really interested. You were expecting that person to connect. Create and archive active findings. Okay. So if you don't want to archive all non-public findings and add more criteria. So that why I was here, I was just giving you a rule here. Otherwise, you can just put some kind of specific rule here, and then when somebody connects, and it fulfills this criteria, then that finding will be archived. So we get the idea that what it is, creating it doesn't really makes any sense because we don't have any external account to connect from. But the thing is that this is something that does exist here. If we go for analyzers here, so console analyzer is a console, this whole dashboard, right? Console analyzer. So if I click inside it is active and current account is this is my account here. This 601 and 7259. Yeah, 7259. So this is my account. And if I click here, so yeah, these are the analyzer details that we put there. So not much here. So now it's just a monitoring tool that we enabled it, and it analyzes access of outsiders. So pretty much we get the idea. Uh, Access Analyzer Administrator, you must sign in using the AWS organizations. Remember what was organizations? I told you. AWS organizations centrally, I'll switch now. AWS organization, um, this service centrally lets us, this service lets us centrally manage multiple AWS accounts. Uh, this also I need to copy the slide. Oh, and then go back to the slide. It suggests yeah. Okay, so we understand what is analyzer. Pretty straightforward kind of thing. Nothing complicated. Okay, so in this phase, do we need to copy the ARN number? No, if we don't need it, then we don't have to copy ARN number for service. This is just an identification for whatever is needed, whatever entity is there. So there is an ARN number for user. There's an ARN number for groups as well. We don't need to really copy that unless there's a lab and you're implementing something there, right? If I go here, so this is the ARN, right? So every entity gets one. But you use it when you are giving some kind of commands there, right? Oh, with this user, do this, this, this. Right now, no, we don't need to copy any error. Okay. So the AWS organizations, this is what it was talking about, but it is coming here as a topic as well. So we're going to discuss that here as well. If I access reports, right? So if I just compress that, so you can see that everything under it was related to access reports. So if I expand that, before it was access management, right? So that's what we discussed. Now it's access reports, so it's all about reporting and monitoring. If we go for credential report, so that's another feature where it's giving you a report of what? The credentials report lists all your IAM users in this account and the status of their various credentials. So how many users you have and what are their username, passwords, or credentials. After a report is created, it's stored for up to 4 hours. So the report is available for 4 hours. If you don't download it, it's going to be removed. I'm going to go ahead and download credentials report and see. So credentials report. What does it have? I actually have three accounts, right? One root and two user accounts. So whatever the information is, does it look like? What information it contains? So that's what this report is all about, which is very, very handy. Because suppose you have 20,000 users here created, and you would want one report of their credentials. They've used any key to access anything else. So all that is so it gives a report of three users. That's exactly how many users I have, and they are ARN count information. So yeah, that's it. User was created when and password was updated or not. And it has MFA. So did it use it? Yes, I used the MFA, so I have it actually. So it is true. So yeah, all the credential information, it looks like this. Just gonna close that. And so that's just a credential report. Um, so credentials report of IAM user. I'll just uh, put it here. Credentials report. Okay, so if we go ahead and switch back to this, okay, I'm gonna go for organization activity, and that's where uh, it says, hey, you don't have an organization, so hence you cannot report any organization activity. So we know already what is organization. Organization, your account isn't a member of an organization. Select an organization unit or OU. OU was, if you are remember in Microsoft Active Directory, if you've heard about that. So OU was an on-premises Active Directory organizational unit. So it is also organizational unit here or account to view its service activity. Recent activity usually appears within 4 hours and data is stored for a maximum 365 days. So it's stored for 365 days. But report is then available only to be read for 4 hours. Your account isn't member of. So we talked about what is organization activity, right? So if I go back to the diagram here, so AWS organization this service lets us centrally manage multiple AWS accounts. So let's go ahead and visit this AWS organization activity since the name is there. So what we can do is we can visit it. Just gonna close. So no, I already have one tab open. I'm gonna open another tab. In fact, I'll just drag it here at the start, then right click. I'm gonna open a duplicate tab. Why? Because I need to go to the organization service, AWS organization. How does that look like? How is it configured? And although we don't have multiple AWS accounts, because then we need another credit card for that. So anyway, I'm just going to click duplicate here. So what is AWS organization? We talked about that just now. That AWS organization. Um, so this service lets us centrally manage multiple AWS accounts. Right? Now, um, now, if we go back here, I have opened or duplicate tab. The first one I'll keep it here because that's where we were following our activity. On the other tab, let's go visit the Organization Service. Right, so where is it? I go to services here, and then first I'll try to check that is it under IAM or not. So I'm just going to click all services, then I'm going to click view all services. And if I click here, where is organization? Oh, security, identity, and compliance, and okay, directory services one also that we're going to visit. And if we go there, so organization is, if not here, there it is. So management and governance. So it's under this category. There's a service called AWS Organizations. So if I click that AWS Organizations, so if I go to first tab here, it says, oh, you don't have it. You don't have organization. So obviously, if you have just one AWS account, you don't need this AWS Organization Service. But if you have multiple AWS accounts, obviously each account having its own credit card, um, hey, I think same credit card can be used for multiple accounts as well. So anyway, but if you have multiple AWS accounts, then you need organization. If you have just one AWS account, then you don't need that. So this error then doesn't matter. We can ignore that, right? But since they mentioned it here, so why don't we just visit that and understand what it is and how does it look like? So AWS Organization Central Management for multiple AWS accounts. There you go. AWS Organizations enables you to centrally manage and consolidate all of your AWS accounts in the AWS cloud. Okay, centrally manage AWS accounts, we get that. What inside the AWS accounts manages? So, AWS Organization helps you centrally manage and govern your environment as you grow, and scale your AWS resources. Using AWS organizations, you can create accounts and allocate resources, group accounts to organize your workflows, apply policies for governance, and simplify billing. So suppose, obviously, multiple AWS, I'm going to switch to the diagram here. Now, multiple AWS, suppose there's one AWS account here, then there's another AWS account here, third AWS account here. And you can centrally see the billing. Okay, this account per month expense is maybe $8,000, right? So, and this account has per month expense of maybe $5,000, right? And suppose this one is $20,000. So there are virtual machines maybe inside, maybe virtual networks inside, databases inside, lots of services working. So now you need to know all this centrally. So that's why then you can have AWS organization. From there, centrally, you can see the billing as well of these accounts. Now, that is what I'm going to switch back to it. It says clearly here, simplify billing by using a single payment method for all of your accounts. There you go. So you want to pay from one credit card. Yes, you can do that too. And or you can put each account with its own credit card. So whichever is the way. I mean, maybe one credit card makes sense. But yeah, different companies, different decisions. AWS organizations is integrated with other AWS services. So you can define central configurations, security mechanisms, audit requirements, and resource sharing across accounts in your organization. AWS organizations is available to all AWS customers at no additional charge. Okay, so you don't really need to pay extra just to use the AWS organizations, but you obviously have to have multiple accounts there to do that, right? So that's where AWS organization comes. So I'm just gonna add that here. Uh, Okay, let me just go back here and now obviously if we go back, we're going to be creating one. I'll just go through the wizard as well. I'm just quickly putting some information here and well, problem. So here, here it says add account. How it works? Add accounts, group accounts, apply policies on multiple AWS accounts, enable AWS services. So yeah, if you have multiple accounts, obviously you can play around with that, and it has a lot of use cases for. Obviously, it's going to be beneficial if you have multiple AWS accounts to be able to centrally manage them, right? So if I go to create an organization here, I don't have multiple AWS accounts, but if you click create an organization, right? That's how it starts here. The accounts listed below are members of your organization. Organization's management account is responsible for paying the bills for all accounts in the organization. Okay, it makes sense. Suppose this is your headquarters, the main AWS account. So if you have 3 or 4 more AWS accounts with, I'm going to switch to that. Uh, so suppose this is your headquarters, but you're getting billing monthly nearly 5,000 and $20,000. So you then pay from this account and make payment for other accounts as well, right? So that's what they're saying here. So if we go back here, you can use the tools provided by AWS organizations to centrally manage these accounts. Okay, we get that. It sees that, yes, I am logged in from root from this account, and this is the account ID for that. This is the email that is connected to that. So that's the management account. So the management account is responsible for paying bills. So I will be, this is the headquarters then, obviously. Now, if I go for add an AWS account here, obviously then, if I just click the add an AWS account, either we create an AWS account if we haven't created that before, or invite an existing AWS account. So it's up to us. Suppose we go for create. You can add an AWS account to your organization either by creating an account or by inviting. Okay, we get that. Account name. So suppose it's, you can name it Sandbox. Oh, what is Sandbox? For example, well, Sandbox is for practice, right? Test environments, right? You can name it anything. So my current one is suppose Sandbox. So this is production. Suppose I name it production one. So all the most critical services, critical data, company data that is actually involved in business operations, we cannot afford uh, disruptions of any type in these business operations, right? So in that case, you would go for the production. I mean, it would be very, very sensitive then, right? Okay, email address of the account's owner. Ah, man, seriously, even for the current account, I had to create a new Gmail account. Ah, okay. Hey, how about I create another one? My credit card will be attached to this. I'm thinking loud right now. Let me just create a new Gmail account quickly, and then I'll add it because it's really, really quick. So new, oh, I'll just go for new on incognito, new Gmail account. I'll also go for one more thing in that I'll tab and I'll check that what is my current account name here. So I'll just use that. Just a slightly different than that. Uh, Duplicate. Just, oh yeah, it's in my slide as well. This is the one that I'm logged in from. I'll just quickly create another one. That is so for myself to manage a business. No way, no business. So it will be not this. I'll make changes here. -1. Okay. Sorry, only letters and numbers and anything. Okay. Did I do something? Periods. Okay. Dot second. Oh, that makes sense. Dot second. Okay. Control A, Control C. What am I doing? I'm just creating quickly another account just to explain how AWS organizations really look like. So I'll just go for some password, hopefully a strong one. Oh yeah, last name. Um, um, Second. And yeah, this is the one. So I'll just put it in my email. Later, I don't forget that. Gmail. Okay. And go back here. Next. Go. Okay. Yeah. Number 47 554 9446. Yeah. Give me the code. 39151. 539151. 5. Yeah. Recovery email. Okay. Gmail.com. Months. I don't know. April. Day. I was gonna write 45 year. 2005. I don't know. Gender. I know. Okay. Just next. And skip. What, for example, your number will be blah 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 blah. Move it. Okay, we're in. Now I'll just add mention this account and yeah, it's creating the mailbox for this quickly right now. It's called Google Workspace instead of mailbox or Gmail. So yeah, it is Gmail, but Workspace. So once this is created, um, now I have that account information here. So I'm just going to Alt Tab to move back or switch back to the other screen where it was asking for. There it was asking here. So I'll just move the extra tab. Yeah, there it is asking, hey, do you have a Gmail account? I say, yes, I have one at gmail.com. Please create my other AWS account. And IAM role name will be the management account can use this IAM role to access resources in the member account. So a role is given to this service called AWS Organizations uh, to manage things in the second account. You can see that whenever I'm doing a configuration, a role, some kind of role is being given to a service to be able to automatically perform certain tasks. So that's what the role is. I was saying that when we were talking about role in IAM, that there will be labs where you will see that the role will be automatically created. So a service needs some kind of permission to perform something, right? So for that, role gives permissions to the service. So yeah, and it's something that's managed automatically by AWS, right? Okay, so then it says, hey, you want to add tags? Maybe. Okay, so it's manager. Maybe the manager is Bob everywhere here. So and tag branch is, yeah, it is still related to Toronto branch. Like maybe this is a New York branch. Manager is Amy. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so This is second account that is handled by the company's New York branch and the manager's Amy, suppose. I'm creating that second AWS account, pretending that this is my production account, which needs to be managed by AWS Organization Service, whose job is to manage centrally multiple AWS accounts, but it does a lot more. It offers policies as well. It offers billing as well, security, auditing. It does a lot of stuff centrally, so that's pretty interesting to know. I have created another account, and well, I'm going to click the create button. Okay, so in the chat, Raza says from where you copy the role. So actually, it creates a role automatically for this service. You don't have to do anything. It automatically creates that for the service. So the service could do something automatically in the background by centrally managing this account. So yes, the role is automatically created. We don't have to do anything here. But just mentioning that the role is being given to this service, so it could have certain permissions on the new account. Okay, so I'm just gonna, and then Raza says why we need second ID. Yeah, that's the reason, Raza, we need second ID, because I want to show how AWS organizations really work. AWS organizations can manage more than one AWS account. So I have one AWS account with which I'm logged in. I'm creating another one to show that, hey, AWS Organization Service manages more than one account. So that's why I'm creating a second ID here, just to show about this service. Otherwise, if you're not following this lab, so it's up to the students if they want to follow this particular lab as well. Otherwise, you don't need to really follow this lab because later we may not need this AWS account, may or may not need this AWS account. If you do create that, just keep an eye on this. If you have another AWS account, so saves this information. Otherwise, don't create it, just understand it. Up to you. Okay? Any of the students. I'm going to click the create AWS account. Guys, this did happen to me. I have been teaching this a lot. So I've been creating AWS account pretty much every 6 months. One of the AWS account I forgot to delete. So it's me. It's just my fault. So I forgot to delete, and for next 1 year, I don't know, $2 coming to me from AWS account. I kept on searching. Oh, which AWS account is that? And there were so many I created for the class free tier accounts that I lost track of it. So, but some service inside that AWS account was running. I should have deleted that account, but I did delete others. I forgot to delete one of them because I was doing other courses, and Azure account I was creating, Google Cloud account I was creating, Oracle Cloud I was creating accounts. So I was creating so many accounts. So I lost count of that. But anyway, the bill kept on coming from one account only. That was my lesson. So at the end of this course, yes, you need to remind me that we need to delete this account, and I'll show you how to. Okay. So AWS is creating one account just to show that AWS Organization Service can manage multiple accounts. One thing. Second thing is how to add the second account. So I had to create one, but you can send an invitation to an existing account. The invitation will come to the Gmail or email of that account, and you can click that invitation. Suppose you already have another AWS account created, right? And you want to add that already created AWS account here in AWS Organization Service. In that case, you can send invitation as well. I just didn't have another one, so I created one. Right? Both things are possible. So whenever it is done, I'm expecting that there will be another account here. This is my current account, AWS account showing here. Suppose this is the test environment or test account where I am doing testing of all the services, and then the next one is the production one. All the critical resources of AWS are created. So suppose that's the second one. Now, well, is creating here. But yeah, the thing is, this account also will be attached to my same credit card. I didn't have to add separately address and credit card. So yeah, I'll have to be extra, extra careful. But that's how we learn, right? So if we are afraid of things, then we cannot learn. So to certain level, you have to be fearless. You have to do the labs, you have to keep going, but you have to be responsible as well. So that's thing that you will have to manage in the job environment as well. Maybe the company has that you join, maybe the company has three separate AWS accounts. In fact, AWS, one account, two accounts AWS, one account Microsoft Azure, one account Google Cloud. You have to manage all of them, right? You're the cloud expert there in the company. So it can happen any of those ways. So better practice now than to practice that. And all we need to practice is how to create that, how to add it, and then be responsible. Remember, we practice here, we will be good here in the job. Well, you can put in the resume, managed AWS organizations with multiple accounts. Looks good. Okay, I think it's going to take time. While this is going on, I'm going to go here to IAM management. So that's what we were talking about, organization activity. So organization is created already on the other tab. I think I could refresh it here and this error will be gone. Instead, there should be that organization that we created on the other tab. That organization should now show here as well inside IAM or Identity and Access Management. I'm going to refresh this. Maybe background synchronization has happened and what I created here should be showing here now. Maybe, maybe not. Refresh this browser. Oh, yes. Oh, in fact, the second account is also showing here. Production one, right? Both accounts are showing here. Yay. Okay, that's good. If I go back to the other tab where the account, this account was still showing as getting created, I'll go there and check what's going on. Oh, it still says that. View all pending creation requests. So I'm just gonna click this. There are no pending. It's already created. It's just moving for no reason. Okay, I'm gonna go back here in this account, and there you go. There you go. That's the second account here. Now this is how it looks like. Suppose your company has multiple accounts, just like I was creating in the diagram here. So account number one here, account number two here, account number three here, right? So whatever's going on here, now I'm just gonna alt tab and switch back to this. This is how it looks like in the AWS organization. You can see if I select this and in fact all, so I can collapse and it looks like this. And then there's root, this clickable as well. I click that, so it goes inside the root. Root is the parent organization unit, OU, for all accounts and other OUs in your organization. So in an organization, you will have an organization unit. So you still want to organize, right? So it's just saying that this is a parent OU. So suppose you say that um, parent OU is Toronto, and then there is another account for maybe in Toronto there are two branches. One is in um, Toronto downtown, and one is in GTA, like Greater Toronto Area, like Mississauga, right? Square One. So maybe you have downtown Toronto and Square One, Mississauga, right? So parent OU can be downtown Toronto and child OU can be Mississauga Square One. So it could be any way you want to organize this. So why did I go inside root? Because then enabled policy types, manage policy types. So there are some policies here as well, and policies tab also shows here. If I click the policies here, um, here, you haven't enabled any of the four policy types available. Oh, so AWS Organizations offers four types of policies. What are those? I'm just going to click that four policy types available. I click that. So it says here, uh, policies in AWS Organizations enable you to do what? Enable you to manage different features of the AWS accounts in your organization. Okay. What are those different features for AWS accounts we manage? AI services opt-out policies. So artificial intelligence AI services opt-out policies enable you to control whether AWS AI services can store and use your content. Okay. So do you want your content to be automatically stored by AWS AI services? So what content? I mean, what is, suppose your voices needs to be stored, right? Last month you paid $2,000. This month you paid $5,000, suppose. So maybe there's some other type of configuration they want to save. So do you want AWS services, AI services to do some automated tasks for your account or not? Um, well, up to you, right? But here, hey, hang on. Oh, it's still creating. Means because I wanted to change that just to check. Backup policies. Do you want to take a backup? Okay, AI services opt-out policies is there, but I need to click on top of it, right? It's clickable. So if I click that, there is the enable button. So you want automatically some data to be taken out from your service account? Not. There is enable AI services opt-out policies. If I enable this, this means no, don't let AI services collect information or configurations from my account. If I don't touch it, AI services will be collecting information from your account. So opt out means I don't want it. Right? So right now is AI services will do what is written here, unless you want to opt out. Okay, if I go to backup policies here, so what do you want to do with that? Backup policies enable you to deploy organization-wide backup plans to help ensure compliance across your organization's accounts. Using policies helps ensure consistency in how you implement your backup plans. Do you want to enable backup on the organization level? Let me go for backup policies. Suppose I click enable. So, what kind of backup policies can I enable on the organization level? Which means two AWS accounts that I have, they're both going to get whatever policy I create here. Suppose we go for backup policies. I'm going to click create policy. How many types of policies I can create for backup? Are there any? So if I go for, suppose it's, okay, just on it, backup policies. Right? Okay, so if I go down here, policy description, also once you have to choose policy, then you can go for policy description. If it lets you do that, tag, yeah, branch this, manager this, you want to put some tags. Now we know how tags work, so I'm just going to go ahead. What is the backup plan name? How about it's critical, so daily backup. Suppose I name it the backup. Contain alphanumeric only, no spaces. Okay. Backup plan regions. Oh, which regions you want to have the backup plan work for? I say, hey, I'm in, okay, US East, right? So we decided to go for North Virginia always. So US East, okay. We're connecting to US East. Suppose you are going to use some other regions as well. You can go for, okay, so there has to be backup being done on these regions across my organization, all the AWS accounts, right? So this region for both AWS accounts, backup should be available. That's what I'm saying here. Right? You can also add extra tags here that backup, daily backup for this branch, for this region. You want extra information added, you can add backup rule. Oh, there's a backup rule here. Oh, okay. Backup rule, mirror one. So it still says you have to, okay, backup rule underscore, not K. That would be characters long container near, but I can't. Yeah, I put underscore. What's wrong with it? There's a space here. Like a vault. Oh, just like in Microsoft Azure, it's the same terminology for backup. We create a vault. Inside the vault, you can save files and folders, right? So, um, backup vault Amer one. Why am I putting my name? Suppose I put some generic name here when I'm deleting something, so I might get confused that, oh, did I create that or not? Something that was by default here or not. So I'm just putting my name in all those places. In fact, here also daily backup format. So I know that I created and I can delete it. All right, if I keep going, yeah, backup frequency. So how frequently you want backup done? Weekly, monthly, hourly, every 12 hours, or day and leave. Use backup window defaults recommended 5 a.m. Early morning starts within 8 hours. Okay, backup policy. Guys, I'm showing you the policy, but I'm not gonna actually enable it. I don't want to be charged. But the thing is that we go that far in just enabling because we don't have any thing to backup. Second thing is when whatever thing we delete, suppose we create a EC2 instance or virtual machine, suppose we create some kind of service, we're going to be deleting it at the end of the class. Any service that we create, we will be deleting it, right? So that's why I'm just showing you, and this showing and exploring the whole thing tells us exactly what's inside and what kind of features are there. So, okay, daily backup, but you can change the frequency as well, hourly, weekly, yearly. Bruce Lee. There's no Bruce Lee. Transition to cold storage. Now, transition to cold storage and hot storage. There's a concept for that as well. Um, Cold storage is so hot storage because we're going to be going in depth with storage topic later. So I'm just still giving you just a brief. Hot storage is frequently used data storage. Obviously, it has higher rates for read and write. And then there is cold storage for infrequently used data storage. So this one has read and write charges are certain level, same level, but here uh, keeping the data charges are much lower. But when we read the file or access the file, charges are more because they need to earn as well. They already gave you a discount on, okay, you want to keep the file in cold storage because you're not frequently using it. So we will charge you very less for keeping it in the cold storage. But whenever you come back to access the file, then we're going to charge you more for accessing the file. While here, you're keeping the file in hot storage, you're reading it, you're writing it, so the charges are a bit higher, obviously, continuously. So it's like 0.0034 to something like that cents per hour. So they could be changing those rates anytime, but that's all. I'm just giving you an idea. So, but cold storage for infrequent, hot storage is for frequent file access. We'll go back to this Alt tab. So they're just saying that, hey, you're backing up something. Do you want to, because it's a backup, so this means it's not frequently going to be used. It's backing it up. Maybe you use it after 1 year, we use it after 6 months. We don't know. So, do you want to pay for keeping those files in backup, the charges of hot storage, or you want to pay the cold storage charges, right? So that's what you need to decide. Transition to cold storage, never. If I know that it's going to be for years or months there, then definitely after, suppose I go for after weeks, after 4 weeks, change it to cold storage, which means now keeping my backup, charge me less. This is cold storage. There is another one. There's Glacier. It's called Glacier. It's for long time backup of devices. There's another name there, but we're going to be going in depth with storage, then we're going to know. But if you had to go for transition to cold, you should be using that option because obviously backup is not something you frequently use, right? So why are you being charged for frequently used storage? To some older storage or cheaper storage. Okay? Retention period, always you want to retain them always, or for you want to retain them for certain weeks. After that, get rid of it. So it's up to you. Generate copy optional, copy to destination optional. So do you want an extra copy of the backup created as well? Maybe it's critical, so you may want to. Otherwise, you don't need to. You want to copy it. Suppose you're taking a backup in US East, but you want its copy to be in the European region, Europe, London, Europe, Paris, Europe, Mumbai, Europe, Stockholm, Tokyo, Seoul, Asia, Pacific, Seoul, Osaka, wherever. So you want to keep a copy of that. So that's pretty cool. Assign resources, resource assignment name, assign resources to this backup plan using tags. Um, so tags, suppose you created a tag um, like branch Toronto, right? So we whatever data is related to branch Toronto, that could be backed up. So you can just specify which exact data you want. But if you don't fill it, then everything within the AWS accounts, whatever you have created, backup policy will be available for that. Okay. So advanced backup settings, if I go back here and I click advanced backup, oh, that was this. Application consistent backup. Enable application consistent snapshots for the selected third-party software running on EC2. EC2 is a virtual machine. Okay? So, and Windows VSS just means that if suppose you have a virtual machine running, you want to take a backup of that. So it's gonna take a backup of running a virtual machine with no services stopped. It's just gonna take a backup. Windows VSS is for that. So, okay, it's pretty detailed policy for backup, but it's good to go through the whole policy of backup that is being provided by AWS Organization Service. Now, this backup policy you will see in when we are creating virtual machines or EC2 instances, right? So it's pretty much the same backup policy offered by AWS wherever you see a backup policy written there, right? So this is how how much it asks for taking backup. But obviously, we don't need to create a backup policy on the AWS organization level right now. I showed you that if you go to policies, suppose you go for backup policies, then this is how it looks like. After that, obviously, if you create policy, it's gonna get created there, and I'm gonna be deleting at the end of this everything. So it's gonna be gone anyway, right? Okay, so David asks in the chat, will the backup policy applies to all services on the AWS accounts in the AWS organization. So whichever service requires or is whichever service is offered a backup. So virtual machine service is offered a backup. I think Lambda is not offered a backup. I'm just giving an example. There are 100 plus services, right? But there are many SaaS-based services that are not offered backup. There are some data that you can separately put there. So whichever service is offered backup, this is the policy that will be available for them to implement. Yeah, whichever service is offered. All services that are offered backup have this backup policy. But there are many services that are not offered backup as well. Right, cool. So yeah, so this is kind of pretty much a straightforward backup policy. Um, where that's it. So this is what we need to know, that how a backup policy looks like and how much it asks from you. I'm gonna click cancel here because I don't want to pursue this. We'll be deleting it at the end of the class anyway, so I'm gonna cancel it here. But that's how backup policy looks like. If I go back to policies on AWS organization level, what else AWS organizations offers? We're still exploring that. Although we need to understand one thing, IAM is a separate service. AWS organizations is a separate service. It is an exam objective, obviously, so that's why we're covering it here as well, because it came in the IAM as well, so we're separately exploring this as well. Still, we're going to pursue the IAM topic. Anyway, service control policies.
Backup policies already been enabled.
Yeah, it is enabled, but that policy did not get implemented. So overall, service is enabled. Yes, you're right.
So backup is just like a copy of the data in
Yes,
the
exactly.
virtual machine.
Yes, it's just you back up somewhere and then you can retrieve it whenever. Suppose the data is deleted here, you can retrieve it from backup. It's an
So where
extra
you
copy.
delete this all, like if you don't want and be enabled, where you delete this?
So then you have to go inside backup policies. It will appear here. Select it
Uh-huh.
and delete. There's action, delete policy.
Oh, okay. Delete the policy. Okay.
Yep. So here, if I go to the policies, backup policies, yeah, we have enabled that, and but we didn't create the actual policy. If we go for service control policy, so what is that? Service control policies, or SCPs, enable central administration over the permissions available within the accounts in your organization. Okay, then I'm going to explain in English as well. So this helps ensure that your account. Okay, guys, please mute. I can hear you breathe. Uh, so please mute your mic. So this helps ensure that your accounts stay within your organization's access control guidelines. Again, what does it say? Service control policies enable central administration over the permissions available within the accounts in your organization. So what kind of permissions should be available within your accounts? We can centrally administer that. Okay, permission number one that I want to make available across the accounts is that we can permit someone to create a virtual machine. Okay, another permission we want to make available across the AWS accounts, we can permit someone to create a storage account or S3 account. Another permission, and then goes on, and but there are some things that you may not want anyone to permit to do. You can decide here on AWS organization level for all the AWS accounts. So I'm just going to go inside by clicking on it. And I'm going to enable service control policies. So yeah, it will be enabled, but I'm going to go through the policy, but I'm not going to actually create a policy here. Now, one default policy is actually already there, which is full AWS access. So AWS managed policy allow access to every operation. It already gives at least one policy here that if you want to perform any operation in AWS, you can perform that operation. Now, if you put this policy on organizational level, and it is right now policy already now implemented in organizational level that yes, you can perform anything inside AWS. So this is a policy already. But if I go inside a policy just to peek inside, can I make some changes? Can I say, no, you cannot do this, you can do that? So it goes to JSON format where it says effect is allow, action is whatever action you want on whatever resource you want. Suppose you have 200 virtual machines. Suppose you have 300 subnets and 20 VPCs, virtual private cloud, or VNets, as we call it in Azure, as private networks. And suppose you have databases. Suppose you have a lot of other things. So you can do whatever you want. This is all out. It's a party. You can do whatever you want. These three lines say that. Unless you want to start doing, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. So if I go back to service control policies, and then there's a create policy here. If I click that create policy, obviously we need to have some negative, some JSON policies to say, oh, I don't want you to do this. Right? So suppose you go for test here, because I'm not going to create, so I'm just putting some random things here. Okay, so it does have the JSON format that you want to do something, you want to not do something. So there is a long list of pretty much all the policies that AWS has, right? And from this, you want to remove, deny something, right? Not remove, you can't remove anything. Deny. Right? So, whoa, IAM, no. I'm using IAM right now. Anything else? Sentinel. Okay, there's a Sentinel here. Kinesis. Okay, Kinesis. Canvas. No. Lambda. Location. Yeah. All right. EC2. Suppose EC2, and I select that EC2. I select EC2. What is EC2? Virtual machines, right? And whatever you do here, whatever you permission you select here, will be implemented across AWS organization. So you have to be very, very careful what you do, right? Accept address transfer. Now there is a long list of what you can do, what you cannot do. Oh, serious, okay. So delete, and describe. It goes on. Set, change, modify. Okay. So I'll go for create. Um, create. Oh, there's a list of create. So yeah, create snapshots. Okay, create snapshots. I clicked create snapshot, and EC2 is there, and it says here effect is deny. So you're here, allow effect is already there, but do you want to deny creating snapshots while allowing everything else? That's how it looks like right now. Right? So um, I don't want to deny snapshots, but the idea is pretty clear now that you're here to allow, create, or deny, right? So creating snapshots, deny, up to you. You want to go for that. You don't want to go for, suppose I go for create policy. A resource, I don't want to actually add a resource and condition. Suppose I click the add button here. So it's, yeah, I already chose EC2. Source type, instance. Okay, it's the virtual machine. I don't have a virtual machine, but whenever I create a virtual machine, this will apply, right? So it says, hey, resource ARN. I don't have a virtual machine right now. So I cannot go for specific virtual machine right now. So they say replace failure with your own information. Yeah, I don't have that. So all resources. So implement it at all virtual machines. Whichever virtual machine I create in both these accounts across the AWS organizations. Uh, so it says any resource any. So yeah, any virtual machine. Deny creating snapshots of any virtual machine that is created across AWS organizations to AWS accounts. Right? Makes sense, right? So, okay. And then if I go to condition, that is optional. You can go for lots of global conditions, principal ARN, principal. You want to go for exact resource when you come here. Suppose you put a tag there or tag key there, uh, like manager John, right? So now manager John creating cannot create snapshots for any virtual machine inside the two AWS accounts under this organization, right? So it goes and goes. You want to be very specific, you can be very specific. Here, just pretty simple that both AWS accounts across the organization, no one can create snapshots now. Ouch, that's not good. Okay. Create policy. I'm supposed to cancel. Um, I can do anything I want, but I cannot create a snapshot, right? So it's always, if it's a deny and allow, deny take precedence for a specific. So yeah, that's how it looks like. But I'm just gonna simply delete the policy. And it says, hey, what's the name of the policy? Yeah, I'm gonna tell them test. We get the idea. Oh, to confirm that you want to delete it, enter the policy name. Delete policy test, right? Oh, it's capital. Oh, case sensitive. It is case sensitive. It. Okay, done. This was created automatically. Yes, let them use all the resources, which makes sense. Now we know that on organization level, we can control pretty much any resource by denying something to someone even for certain resources. It's pretty powerful here. If I go back to policies here, then we have tag policies. Tag policies help you standardize tags on all tagged resources across your organization. You can use tag policies to define tag keys, including how they should be capitalized and their allowed values. Okay, remember that I was putting their branch, Toronto, the manager, Bob. Suppose you can create a tag policy that says you cannot put manager there, you cannot put branch there, put anything else. Or you cannot put specific names there. So whatever you're putting in the tag, you can actually create policies because tags really play a very important role across the organization. You put specific information in tags, it becomes very helpful later. I'm just going to go inside the tag policies, and if I go for enable tag policies and go for create a policy, put test, all lowercase, add tag. So new tag key one, it says. So it says tag key capitalization. So now, although we put, anything, tags are key value pairs, right? So suppose you go for this is, the first tag is always about organization, and your organization name is um, AB ABZ Technologies. So suppose this is a company name. So you and put there always when you're putting tags from now on, for company name tag should be there, always there when you're putting number of tags. Oh, manager is this, project is this, branch is this, department is this. Oh, I forgot to put the company name. Ugh. So it'll always be there. So you can put some kind of policies there, whatever information you put, at least put this information. You must. That's what they're saying. Use the capitalization that you've specified above for the tag key. So yeah, if you have done some capitalization, no one can put lowercase abc. They have to put capital ABC and T has to be capital. So whatever capitalization, if you want them to follow, you can check that. Tag value compliance, specify allowed values for this tag key. Only specified values were allowed for the tag key, including the specified capitalization. Specify values, only the values listed. So you can start putting that, hey, you can key and value. So you can start putting here, uh, you can only use these values, right? Like manager name would always be this, or department would always be these. No other department other than these. So admin department, IT department, security department, etc., right? So, and then somebody puts some other department which does not exist. So the tag policies will not let that person put whatever department they want to put, right? So it goes much deeper than this, but it's pretty cool that you have tag related policies. You can control actually whoever puts whatever tag. So see this add tag. I keep putting whatever I want to put here. Maybe at that time I have some wrong information about the project put there, and then later I cannot find this resource uh, because project name was different, and we're looking for this resource, but the project name is wrong, right? So you can put some tag policies for that. So in the long run, it is important. Otherwise, right now for lab environment, it's good to know that it's here, right? Just gonna click cancel here, and then I'm gonna go to policy. So yes, organization level policies are pretty interesting. In fact, we didn't go inside this one, AI services opt-out policies. Yeah, it's opt-out, right? So okay. Uh, I want AI services, right? So if I click that, it will not use some of the artificial intelligence services. I want them to use artificial intelligence services. Okay, guys, so policies area is very, very interesting for within the AWS organizations. If you have multiple AWS accounts, I have to be very, very careful now. I that because I have now two accounts. If I go to settings here within AWS organization, so that's pretty much default settings with whatever uh, email address, management name. Want to delegate this service to someone, delegate the management of AWS organization policies to member accounts and specify policy types and actions they can perform. So suppose there's another administrator or junior admin that got hired, so you're the senior admin, so you can then like that. So if I click delegate, then who to delegate, add actions for, and then you can go for documentation that suppose this guy can is delegated to create this and this policy, and this guy is delegated to add more AWS accounts. Whatever you want to do, you want some other guy to do on AWS organizations level, right? So that's delegation. I'm going to cancel out from here. If I go up there, so that's delegation here in settings, and there's a getting started. There's on top, so we went for policies, we checked that services. If we go there, so you can configure supported AWS services to perform actions in your organization. A service for which you enable trusted access can retrieve information about the accounts, root, who use, and policies for your organization. Quote, we recommend that you do not enable trusted access with an AWS service here. Instead, use the other AWS services console to enable and disable trusted access with AWS organizations. It allows the other service to perform any supporting tasks needed to enable or disable access to organizations. I'll explain in English as well. For more information, see the documentation for this. So, um, is this service Amazon Detective, whatever it does, is this service allowed to be controlled and be interacted by AWS organizations or not? So, should AWS organization have any control for the usage of this service? Because suppose you say yes, AWS organization from now on controls if this service runs on the two AWS accounts or not. So access disabled for now, AWS has no jurisdiction. So you cannot really, through the policies of AWS organizations, you cannot control the functioning of this service for now, right? But you can enable, yes, through AWS organization policy. So any of these services can be controlled centrally from here now. Otherwise, if they're disabled, then you have to go to that service and from within that service separately. So how do we go separately? I go here and on the other tab, then I go to services here, then I go to all services here, then I go to view all services, and then I can go for Amazon Detective. Actually, I could have searched it. Detective. There's AWS Detective here. So if I go inside this service, then I can decide that from within this service, if there is any possibility of enabling it or this service allowing AWS organizations to control it. From within this, there's an option, yes, we can enable. And AWS says from within the service, try to enable connectivity of this service to AWS organizations. Don't try to connect from there, from this area. So that's what they're saying themselves, that it's better to go to that service directly if there's an option. You want to connect to AWS organization, you want to be controlled by AWS organization or not. If there is an option, then enable disable from within the service instead of enabling disabling here or touching here. That's what they AWS recommends itself. But yes, the option is this services area is that do you want AWS organizations to control these services for both AWS accounts, right? So that's a pretty long list of services. Wow. Okay. And you can see here, I saw the backup service here. Firewall manager, log trail. Oh, these are very critical. So yeah, there you go. AWS backup service is also here. So far, AWS organizations does not really control it. Although, yeah, I didn't even create a service there. I canceled out there, right? It's enabled, but so far it doesn't control. If I click access enable, then it whatever policies of AWS organizations are here will be implemented directly on that backup. It will affect that backup policy. Anyway, this is how in-depth AWS is and very flexible when it comes to what you want to control centrally, what you don't want to control centrally for all AWS attached accounts. This organization. So we went for, I'm going to click the AWS account. Yes, there are two AWS accounts. This is the headquarter account where we are. And I created an AWS account here. We could have invited another account. It's pretty much the same, but I created one. I have two AWS accounts now with two Gmails, but one credit card. Right? So if there were maybe 20 AWS accounts, yes, they can all be connected to one credit card. Okay, so that's pretty much it for AWS organizations. But we get to know that, okay, so we can handle multiple accounts from here, right? So that's pretty cool information. Okay, so I'll be adding it to here. Okay, two accounts here for AWS organizations. and go back here. Now, uh, where did it all started? It emanated from IAM. I'm just going to go back to IAM. IAM is also showing here because I went into this, or if I go to services, it's showing here as well. So I'm going to click that inside IAM and expand your IAM capabilities. It says so IAM Identity Center successor to AWS Single Sign-On streamlines how you manage workforce user access to AWS. Yep. So is just adding more features. I just closed it. Okay, so this organization activity, which was showing error before, now it actually shows that organization activity from within IAM because we separately went to this service for AWS organization and then we added another account. We enabled the service, we added another account. That's why now it is showing properly here within IAM. So from within IAM, we can also keep a track of how many AWS accounts are added here, while we can go directly to AWS Organization Service as well. ONK. So if we go for service control policies, we just saw that within organization, AWS organization as well, SCP, right? Service control policies. I click that here. What we saw in AWS organization, this is on organization level, that is on organization level, this is on this account level, one account level. Right? So service control policies, which services you want to control. Oh, I mean, well, we talked about that before as well. All services, view all services. So these are all the services, right? Services, 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 services. So service control. So you want to control services. This service should work, this service should not work, or some features of this service should work, some features of this service should not work. So that's called controlling the service. Okay, if I go back here to IAM, I'm back. So it says choose the name of an SCP, service control policies, SCP, to view a report of the services that member accounts can access. So member accounts, yes, we have two AWS accounts, or we have user accounts as well. So what services member accounts can access? You can use this information to edit the SCP in the AWS Organizations console. It again says, hey, remember you were there and you had the capability to control the services from there as well. So it just simply says you can use this information to edit the SCP in the AWS Organizations console to do what? To deny access to services that you don't need. That's the main purpose of SCP because all services are by default allowed to be used, right? So you can use all the services. Oh, you want to deny some service to be used by this account? Then you come to service control policies. So that's pretty much what SCP is. That by default, services are working. You don't want some services to work. You want to deny that service working status. So then you can do that. So yeah, that's what it is. Those control policies. If we go, so we saw that from AWS also you can access that. Right now, every service is allowed, but we remember that we actually denied taking snapshots only process the of taking snapshots for virtual machines only denied that. So we saw that how to do this. So we can deny the whole service, or we can deny certain feature of a service as well across this AWS account only, or from AWS organizations across all AWS accounts as well. ONK. So we've gone through all this IAM main service here, and then at the end it just shows I am the new one. Let's explore that too, because in future we'll be using this one, I guess, because they say new, so obviously they will import that. So IAM successor to AWS single sign-on. IAM Identity Center. So this is just the Identity Center. Manage workforce access to multiple AWS accounts and cloud applications. Yeah. Enable IAM Identity Center. Makes it easy to connect an existing directory or use the built-in Identity Center directory to manage user access to AWS accounts and cloud. Okay. Anyway, this is still coming. Mainly, it is for successor for AWS single sign-on. Single sign-on is a service, separate service that lets you connect to, to a federation, maybe on-premises Active Directory, or on-premises branch Active Directory, or any other applications identity providers. Right? So maybe Facebook you want to connect, maybe you want to connect to Google Space, Workspace you want to connect. So yes, this will help you do that. We already talked about that before in identity providers. So this is just identity center that will be upcoming. They've made it new. O and K. Now, once the IAM visit is done, then obviously there are many other policies, services that we need to go for. And the next service is actually EC2. So there's going to be long list of services according to the exam objectives we're going to go for. If I go to all services now and view all services, so see we see EC2, which is Elastic Compute Cloud 2, which means much virtual machines. They had to come up with a very weird name, Elastic Compute Cloud. But yes, this is just virtual machines. Now, if I go to compute area after coming from IAM, so see on the top right, and we talked about that before as well, vector region, right? So if I go to IAM, which region would I select? If I go to IAM, it shows me global. It does not show me a specific, it does not let me even select a specific region on planet Earth, right? That is IAM because IAM is a global service. You want to create users in European region, you're going to come here. Create users in Asian region, you're going to come here. You're going to create user in North American region, you will still come here. So it's global. You create users for whichever region. Okay, so when you go to services, all services, and then view all services, then you go to this EC2, right? EC2. Now it's going to let you select the region. It's EC2 is not a global service. It is a regional service. So when you create a virtual machine, it's going to use underlying hardware of Amazon's data center. It's going to use the hardware of the Amazon data center, right? When we go there, AWS data centers, right? And images. So these are the data centers, and these are hundreds of thousands of physical servers, right? And the guy has that secret tunnel that if something happens, maybe he switched off something by mistake, he could just run from this and run for his life. But no, okay. Okay. Anyway, the thing is that uh, those physical servers on top of which you will be running your virtual machines. So when you're running your virtual machines, they have to be given a compute, a CPU much processing you want, how much memory you want, how much hard disk you want, underlying storage you want, how much networking you want. So obviously, you're using their data centers. Right? So that's why it has to be regional. Right? Okay. So if this is regional, then we have to choose a region. So we're going to be choosing US East 1, which is nearest to us, which is North Virginia. Right? Although we can use this Canada Central, but the thing is, um, well, that's what I got to learn from my classes that there's more features. North Virginia region is very updated. I mean, all the latest features of AWS, they're all available on these data centers, North Virginia data centers. But some of the features, some of the services features may not be available in Canada Central. They might not have made available some of the services there, or some of the advanced features of a service may not be available in Canada Central. So that's why we're going to connect to the nearest one, which is this East North Virginia. Right? Now, this means that we have to be sure that it's North Virginia all the time. Sometimes we are connecting, clicking, and then we realize that, oh, we created everything in Ohio. So it's okay to create in Ohio, then we need to stick to Ohio. If you've created, suppose, one component of a virtual machine in Ohio, like virtual disk, maybe it asks later, you're creating another component, it asks the underlying data center for many different components. Suppose you created one component in Ohio, other component in North Virginia. So these two area things or components will not see each other. They are on different regions. Right? So one virtual machine is in North Virginia, one virtual machine is in Ohio, or disk. First, you create a virtual machine, suppose, right? So if I go there and I create a EC2 instance, I create a one EC2 instance here. An instance slash virtual machine, but you can stick to the terminology and call it EC2 instance, Elastic Compute Cloud. So once you create a virtual machine, so obviously you would have created its virtual disk as well. So we're going to be creating a virtual machine, and then so this is virtual disk. Now, once you create that, now suppose later you need another virtual disk, but first thing, you created all this in Virginia, right? Data center, Virginia data center. So the virtual machine, when you were creating, it asked which region. You said North Virginia. So everything regarding virtual machine you're creating, you said North Virginia. Now you need another disk. So yes, you can create another disk only, and you can attach after creating that disk. You can attach to this virtual machine. By mistake, you created that disk in Ohio region, right? So you've created that virtual disk in Ohio region, while the rest of the virtual machine is in North Virginia region. So North Virginia region-based virtual machine will not be able to see disk that you created in Ohio. You won't be able to connect these guys. The disk has to be created in the same region where the virtual machine is for it to connect, see and connect, right? So if it's in a different region, yeah, it's a long, suppose there's no data inside, better delete it and then create it again. Here in this region, if it had data, then yeah, it's even longer than you uploaded in the wrong region. You just, upload in the right region and then attach. So you can do that. So regions are very, very important. Till now, what we were not dealing with regions. Now we're gonna be dealing with the region. So uh, all components must belong to the same region for them to connect/interact with each other. That's a very, very important thing. And well, mistakes happen. We're here to learn. But if it does happen that you created another region, a component in another region, just go ahead and delete it and again create that component and select the correct region. Okay. That said, let's go ahead. Oh, right. So we go again. EC2, which is Elastic Compute Cloud. Oh, uh, another name for virtual machines in AWS. Um, and yeah, so the region thing, this is an important topic, and students do make mistakes when they're doing that. So select the correct region for multiple components. Okay, and yeah, we discussed it. Okay, so if we go back here, our tab, now we're inside the EC2, new EC2 experience. You want to see the old one, you can uncheck that, better stick to the new experience. Lots and lots of stuff here. You can see it's pretty much a lot of configurations here in EC2 instances or virtual machines. So if you go to the EC2 dashboard, well, we are in EC2 dashboard and we are in North Virginia. Just remember, keep an eye on that. It is not Ohio, it is North Virginia. Okay, so instances running 0. Yeah, we haven't created anything. Auto scaling, dedicated hosts, instances, key pairs, elastic IPs, load balancers, security groups, snapshots, volumes. So lots of terminology there for this, but the whole dashboard shows here you're in North Virginia, first of all. You want to launch an instance. Yes, you can create one. And then, okay, so availability zones in North Virginia. That's the most one of the most interesting things is that it has 6 availability zones. If I change this region to Ohio, let's see how many availability zones are there. So first of all, North Virginia region is big, right? But if I go to Ohio, I'm switching to Ohio region and zones. It has just 3 regions, 3 availability zones. Right? It's not as big as North Virginia regions for, because of New York, maybe because of the industry, because of the all the companies there, uh, right? So that's why North Virginia gets the most or the biggest infrastructure. If I go for US West, North California, just to be curious, uh, others might all have 3. Oh, minimum 2. Okay, minimum 2 regions are there. This is West region, right? California, the West Coast. So none of them would have 1 availability zone. Minimum, they will have 2. The difference between AWS infrastructure in terms of region and availability zone and Microsoft Azure regions all have or large majority have 3 minimum availability zones always. Here, you can see it's 6 availability zones in North Virginia, while you see Ohio 3 availability zones, while you see in US West 2. But none of them would have 1. I don't think so. It doesn't make sense if they have 1. I'm just gonna go switch to Canada Central as well. At minimum 2 should be there. Uh, Canada Central actually has 3. Okay, so it's a bit bigger. Okay, anyway, I'm just gonna go back to the biggest, North Virginia and nearest to us, biggest nearest to us, right? So that's North Virginia, and let's go back here. Now we have on the left side EC2 dashboard. Then there is EC2 viewer. So what I clicked was EC2 global view, EC2 global view. So globally, there are 17 regions and uh, instances. So that's a very, very good feature. Suppose this is a big company and you have multiple administrators across the globe. You have like branches across the globe. Some administrator in Asia region in Japan or Asia Pacific, Osaka, created 5 instances last week. Suppose, and one admin in well, we can see that here. One admin in Europe, London, EU West 2 created 80 instances, 80 virtual machines, suppose. So you will see that how many instances are created across the globe for your company account. So that's very good. And how many subnets that you can create. We're going to be doing networking as well. How many security groups? What is a security group? It's like a firewall, but we're going to go in detail as well. How many VPCs, which is just a private network. So the good thing is that they show you that across 17 regions, how many virtual machines are created. So this is a very good bird's eye view of what is there and what is a resource region counts. It says how many instances, zero. Obviously, we didn't create anything, right? How many virtual private cloud or private networks are there? How many subnets are there? Security groups. It says there opt-in, not required, not opted in. So it just says that which regions you can use the free tier and which regions you cannot use. Okay, if we go to global search here, so then how many subnets are across the globe available for you wherever you want to create? That's it. So region explorer, yeah, that's it here. I'm just gonna go back and okay. So I click the global view, which is very, very cool. Then other than that, we way back we did one lab. I told them, okay, let's create two virtual machines, one virtual machine in East Coast and the other virtual machine in West Coast. So then, yeah, we just wanted to have failover lab, right? So we fail over active virtual machine to passive virtual machine or backup virtual machine. So one student forgot. So at the end of the lab, we deleted both. We had to go switch to the other region and delete the machine there as well. So one student forgot to delete it from the other region. So we just have to, whenever we create, we have to make sure that we go there and delete that. Otherwise, look at global view where it will show within your account total how many virtual machines are created there. Okay, guys, if we go to events here down, so obviously there's nothing going on because we didn't do anything. If we go to tags, but events are that at what time, which virtual machine started and how long it is started, right? What's the progress? Is it starting or start or restarting? What is the resource ID? So all the information about virtual machines. And if we go for tags here, so there is manage tags. Obviously, here also you can go for department this, manager this, branch this, right? Project this. You go for limits. So we do have limits here, obviously, because it's not a commercial account. It's a free tier, 1 year free tier account. So it does tell us limits of whatever type of virtual machine we can use. Okay, let's go down to instances here. So this is the instances section, right? So if I click the instances, this one, then so there is launch instances here, right? And So we're going to create a virtual machine. Okay, launch instances. I'm going to click the launch instances here. And launch instance. So obviously, if you need a virtual machine, then you come here and you launch an instance. And inside the virtual machine, you would see an operating system and either just an operating system with a virtual machine that is called image. So either it will be a Windows operating system or a Linux operating system or a Unix operating system. And there could be any either with an application, some kind of application on top of it that you can customize after installing it, or it would be just an operating system there, and you can start it, you can remotely connect to it, and then you can install an application of your own, customize the settings as you want. So that's how it will be there. So if I go back here, so name, I'm just going to go for Amir-VM01. Suppose that's the name we want to give here. You can put additional tags here as well. Number of instances, so that's pretty good. You want to create 100 instances now. So it's going to automatically then create 100 virtual machines. 100 million. So I clicked outside. It's supposed to give an error, and I hope no one does that. Otherwise, okay, uh, not gonna look good on your account. I'll stick to one. And second thing is that it is asking on the, it is actually showing on the right side. It has software images. Um, so there's a technology called AMI. What is AMI? AMI is Amazon Machine Image. So we already know what an image is. That either it has an operating system only inside already installed, or it has an operating system plus an application that is called image, something ready-made for you. You just do customization. And so you want to use this Amazon Linux machine, or we can create a Windows machine, right? Uh, and then there is virtual server type instance. So this is the slowest machine available. Obviously, cheapest machine. This is the free one. This you can create anytime, even after 1 year. The free tier is done. This machine is still free, but it is pretty slow. It's just barely starting. Okay. Anyway, this is the free machine that we want. Anyway, firewall security group. So security group, we will be creating here. What is a security group? So a security group, as you can see, that it is also called firewall. Suppose you have a virtual machine here or an EC2 instance. Now, this EC2 instance or virtual machine has, suppose, Windows operating system, right? Windows OS. And it has web server. It is a web server. It has a website inside, right? Company web pages are there with critical information. So now you want to control who can connect to this virtual machine, like, or what kind of traffic is allowed to this virtual machine. So you create a security group, which is also called firewall. So what does first thing a firewall does when it is created? So a virtual machine is just newly created and the firewall turns on the first time. What does it do? So firewall blocks everything, everything um, entering uh, outside to inside of a virtual machine. So it blocks everything, and then we can decide uh, which traffic from which IP source um, is allowed to connect to the virtual machine, right? So we then decide what type of traffic is allowed, what type of traffic is not allowed. For example, you then need to know that obviously 3389 uh, port we are allowing. So 3389 is 3389 is what? Windows? Yes, you're right. Remote desktop. Okay, nobody said anything. I know it's really uh weekdays and then it's nearing the I'm half asleep already. Just kidding. Okay, so 3389 remote desktop here. And so remote desktop means you can connect to this virtual machine from your IP. Suppose you're connecting from your home laptop, right? Home laptop, and your DSL IP. Suppose you want anyone to connect to this virtual machine through 3389, which is remote desktop. It's okay. But you want a specific IP guys to be connecting to this virtual machine. Specific IP guys. Oh, really? How do you do that? So everyone, you're connecting from home through internet, right? So your ISP provides you a temporary ISP temp public IP. You have been your DSL router has public IP that keeps on changing, right? So you the administrator of AWS tells you that okay, you can connect to this virtual machine, but can you tell me your IP? And whenever it changes, you just have to let me know again. I'll put that IP as well because home residential internet public IPs keep changing, right? Few ISPs actually allow you to keep a static IP with $5 per month or $10 per month. Once I had to just change my ISP because I researched that which ISP allowing residential IPs to be static, don't change at all. Once a public IP is given, it's the same. I wanted to host my Exchange server or email server from home or something like that, right? So otherwise, majority don't allow that. So I want to know my own public IP. So I'm gonna go for what is my IP, and that changes very soon, right? So currently my IP is this, right? So if you go for your what is my IP in your browser, it's gonna tell you what is your IP. But uh, so suppose this is the IP, and from this IP, you give this IP to the administrator. So administrator first opens through security group or firewall the traffic type 3389, which is remote desktop. And if you want to, either you can go from any means from anywhere on the internet, anyone can connect. Or if you don't want to go any, then you can go for specific IP. In that case, you have to provide the administrator a specific IP, right? The administrator adds that IP for this particular virtual machine inside the security group, and then only you can connect from your remote desktop here, this virtual machine, right? Virtual machine will already have a public IP given. So public IP once given, then obviously you can connect there. So this is what does security group do? So it blocks all the traffic, and then 3389, or you can enable 1433. So suppose it's a database port, right? Or port 23. Port 23 is thing FTP. No, it's telnet, right? FTP. Port 22 is SSH. So database, right? And then you can just Google all the famous ports there. Port 389 is LDAP for Active Directory, authentication, authorization, and users and groups, right? So there are long list of ports that you can allow or deny. So 443, obviously for HTTPS, right? Or secure socket layer, and then port 80 for HTTP. So it keeps going for port 25. It keeps going, right? Exchange or email. Now you have to know the ports or type of traffic to allow that type of traffic in the security group, and either from anywhere by selecting any, or you can select a specific IP. And there's another thing called by selecting a specific tag, you can also allow traffic. So security group, like a firewall, and it allows and blocks traffic according to what you want and from whichever source you want the traffic to come from and all other sources. So suppose you add this IP, now this is your home IP, right? But that day you went to another friend's home or another employee's home, company employee's home, and that employee's IP is not added in the machine, so you won't be able to connect. If you're not at home, you won't be able to connect to this machine. Suppose you're in the branch, but no one else from the branch connects to it. Even from your office branch, you cannot connect unless the office branch IP is also added here in the allowed IP list, right? So that's what security group is all about, allows bots traffic to the virtual machine and also which source it is allowing traffic from and which source. Okay, right? So pretty much, yeah, what firewall does. So if we go ahead, so that's the security group, and then there's a storage volume. So obviously you need to give a virtual disk, right? Some type of virtual disk on a virtual machine. If I press Alt Tab and switch again back to this, so obviously this virtual machine, where will it store data? It has to store data in the virtual disk. Suppose this is the virtual disk. It's an 8 GB disk or 20 GB disk, right? Or is it a SSD, solid state drive, or is it HDD, hard disk drive, which is slow, SSD is fast? So which storage do you want? Okay, Raza says in the chat, EC2 is used for web pages only. No, EC2 virtual machine is used for pretty much anything. You want to install here databases, you want to install here MS Office, but just like our laptop can be used for pretty much anything, desktop is used for anything. So virtual machine can be used for any application. Okay, or EC2 instance. EC2 instance is just virtual machine. It acts like a laptop or desktop. Ooh, and K. So now here it says clearly in your first year includes 750 hours of T2.micro, T3.micro in the regions in which T2.micro is unavailable. So you are allowed to have instance usage on free tier AMI for per month. So per month you can use 750 hours for virtual machine. More than that, they will charge you. 30 GB of EBS storage, elastic block storage. So terminology again. So elastic block storage. So EBS equals elastic block storage, which pretty much means your hard disk, virtual machine hard disk, virtual hard disk, right? Virtual disk or hard disk, we want to say that. And that's EBS, and for EC2 equals, we already talked about that. This is elastic compute cloud. This is your virtual machine. So always remember that. Obviously, each virtual machine has to have virtual disk. So each EC2 instance has to have an EBS. So EBS has to be, otherwise, where will you store your data, files and folders? It has to be inside a disk or EBS. This is just AWS terminology. If you go back here, so yes, the image is there and virtual storage is there. But what do we have here then? I don't want to launch the instance now, and they have given me the free tier, limitations as well. That there's 2 million IOs, so input output data per second, which is 2 million IOs is um, when you are saving something on the disk, and when you're retrieving something from the disk. Suppose you search something and or you double click and open the file, so the files are opening. So that's called input output IO data per second, right? Hops. So you're writing something, you're reading something, that is IOPS. So they are allowing 1,000 read and write. So you double click the file, one file opened, or maybe 9 files open in the background. That's 8 IOs counted, right? So when you're saving something, maybe one time it's saved, so one IO counted, right? So if I switch back here, they're saying, oh, sorry, 2 million IOs. That's a lot. You play a game a long time. 1 GB of snapshots, when you're taking a snapshot or configurational copy, configurational state backup when you're taking, so 1 GB space you can take for that, and 100 GB of bandwidth to internet. So this much data you can copy paste into this machine, into or out of this machine, from the network or from the internet. Okay, so after that, yes, you won't be able to do that. So application and OS images. So if we go on this side, so there is, if I just collapse that, there's instance type. If I collapse that, there's key pair. If I collapse that, then there's network settings, collapse this, configure storage, collapse this. Okay. So that's a pretty long list of stuff that we need to discuss. So if we go for application and OS images, Amazon machine image. So they're just saying that what kind of AMI is, an AMI is a template that contains the software configuration, operating system, application server, and applications required to launch your instance. Do you want just an operating system inside or application plus operating system inside? Do you want that or something else? So if I go in now down here, it says, hey, we're going to install for you an Amazon Linux image installed inside this virtual machine, which is showing here as well, Linux 2 kernel 5.0. I say that, okay, what about Mac OS? So they say that, okay, Mac OS, we can deploy that too for you if you want. And Mac OS Ventura 13.0 will be deployed. You want that? I said, how about Ubuntu? This is also Unix, Linux flavor. So, yep, they give this information, then they give this information as well. Then I go for Microsoft. So whichever operating system you want, you can keep on trying that. They're going to install Windows Server 2022 there. Red Hat will be provided by Red Hat. Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9 HVM. But if you go, there's an arrow here as well, and SUSE Linux and Debian. So these are the other operating systems, right? And then they say browse for more AMIs, including AMIs from AWS Marketplace and the community. Oh, so Marketplace is that different companies have uploaded their own EC2 instances with operating system and application combination. So if we go for browse more AMIs here, now you see a long list of maybe 47 here and 500 here, 7,000 from Marketplace. So many companies have added their operating system You can deploy the internal OS license. Either they are free or they are licensed, up to you that you want to purchase the free one or the licensed ones. But that's a pretty long list of different combinations here. Microsoft Windows Server 2019 with SQL Server 2019 Web, Microsoft Windows Server 2019 with SQL Server 2017 Standard, Windows Server 2019, SQL Server 27 Enterprise. There's slight difference, and then there's another image available, another image available, another image available, and it keeps on going. Uh, if this is just the Microsoft one that you want, then you can also see the gray one here, free tier eligible. Right? Then there's verified provider, but no free tier eligible. This means that don't go for that if you're testing, because then they will be on charges, right? They will charge you for that. But they are verified providers, so they're not from some scammers. They are verified. But free tier eligible are also there, and that's exactly we would be installing. You can see that it's a 2019 core, which means just the command prompt, command line only. Obviously, you don't go for that, but this is pretty light, and if you know the PowerShell commands, then you can go for that. Core base, SQL Server 2022, TensorFlow, it goes on, right? So we get the idea that, okay, so there are some free tier eligible that we can use in the free tier, and there are no free tier, which means that they will charge us for that. And then all Linux, you want to see Linux, Unix, you want to see all Windows, then 64-bit, 32-bit, x86, 64-bit, x86, there's ARM, there's a bit slightly different architecture, hardware architecture, than Macintosh from Apple as it, and well. Okay, so this is the variety of machine images. If I go for marketplace here, 7,000 types of images there. Yeah, that's from pretty much then all the other companies, WordPress certified by Bitnami, CentOS, OpenVPN. These are the all the Palo Alto firewall, right? On some kind of Linux operating system, and then on top of that, the application for firewall. And it Kali Linux, very famous for hackers, Fortinet, Palo Alto, it goes on. There's a pretty big list of CIS benchmark, CIS, Amazon Linux 2 kernel, 1.1 benchmark. Okay. Anyway, F5 load balancer, Trend Micro, antivirus, and it goes on. Big list. So about 7,000 images. Some are paid, some are free. Up to you. You need to be careful. And these are the types of images they have: applications, industries, machine learning, Internet of Things, IoT, infrastructure software, DevOps. What kind of images you want, right? All right. If I go back here to launch an instance, if I click that, yeah, I'm back where we were. And then I select, suppose, Windows, this one, right? So free tier eligible Windows, yes. If I just drop down, so then there are different types here. In fact, it goes for base but not core. Core is again command line. We want some graphical user interface as well, so we're gonna go for base. Hopefully that is base. So we're gonna stick to base and verified provider. So yeah, it's not, the image is not corrupt. That's what pretty much they're saying. Instance type, if you go for T2 micro, T2 micro has only one virtual CPU and 1 GB memory, so it's just barely breathing. So yeah, as long as it starts, it's good for us. But it's obviously the slowest machine, and it's free. Otherwise, you can go for other types as well with a bit more, or even a bit less. Wow, it has even less. 1 micro, T2 nano, T2 micro. And then if I keep going down, T3 to X large, 8 processors, virtual CPUs, and 32 GB RAM. Obviously, those are you need to then pay for that if you go for that. That's right. But we're gonna stick to the free tier T2 micro. Seems like we won't be able to create machine today. Uh, but we're going for not the paid one, the more expensive or the more powerful ones. We're going for the slow and free one, right? And there is key pair login. So key pair login. If I just expand that, so key pair name and proceed with the key pair not recommended. Okay, guys. So key pair and all this, I'm gonna be explaining in detail. Obviously, no rush. We have to do everything in depth and details. There's network settings here, configure storage as well, advanced details here as well. So this means that obviously I won't be able to launch this today. This Saturday, let's meet again, and we're going to be then working on EC2 instances of virtual machines, and we're going to be doing a lot of labs on EC2 instances. So let's meet on this Saturday. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a nice rest of the weekend. See you this Saturday, 3 p.m. Cancel out from here. Right. Yep.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I made this user group.
Hmm.
I create a group, okay,
Hmm.
and I enable the multi-factor authentication.
Hmm.
And so, what would be the next step for me? Because I created this group one and user group, and user is like my user group one. I want to see the access, when I see a video, shows the access key and secret access key. So where I can find the access key and secret access key?
We're not using access key and secret access key now. It's going to be in the storage lab. But when you are creating the user at that time, you can see that, or if you click the user, when you click the user, mic user 01,
Hmm?
the user. So security credentials, if you go to the right side, security credentials, no, left, no, right. It's in the tags, permissions, groups, tags.
Okay, security.
Uh-huh. Oh, the access key one, access key two. On the above, it just says that it's not available on the right
I
above,
have to enable this.
right side, right side. When you're
Okay.
seeing access key, we haven't done the lab for that yet. So that's why, I mean, when we do that, then I will show you properly that how to access them, how to recreate them. But access key one, access key two, when you were creating the user, so at that time, normally it can show, but we don't need it right now, and we will use it when we use it. Then I will show you, obviously. But
Okay,
right
and
now, we're good. Yep.
I want to give the permissions, uh, like user one, this one. So if I give him a administrator access, RDS, and I did a change
Yeah,
password also.
that's good. That's how we give permissions.
These are my permission, right?
Yeah. Good.
Okay, and I want to see I don't get charged. So where I go here and see billing dashboard, right?
You have to log in from root, sign out from here,
Okay,
and then sign in from
okay,
root,
sign out
and then
here
go to billing dashboard.
and sign in again.
Go down. No, yeah, this one. So as you were saying, it's a billing dashboard. Yeah, nothing complicated.
This Z and SS.
Master G.
M5T batch. My KR.
Mm.
Oh,
So yeah. Oh, there's double dot there.
yeah.
Oh.
And
Yeah, so if anyone wants to go and no question, then yeah, you can go. Bye bye. See you next Saturday. And if there are questions, yeah, you can ask after or type.
Murphy. I should go to IAM or
No, go to the top right and then billing dashboard.
where?
Go down, view your bill.
Zero.
Yes, 0000. You're good.
So,
Okay.
so main account is like this, or you go here. Well,
Yes. Okay, guys. So any question, let me know. Otherwise, bye bye.
So,
Yes, sir.
so I did my lab
Oh,
up
okay.
to your
Yes.
point.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did your lab.
So my next lab would be to
Today's lab.
create a AWS organization.
Yeah, what we did today. Follow the video.
Okay. So if I create another email, how I know that, how do I, close the environment,
Right now we're creating the environment. So when we are about to close, I will tell you that. Right now we're not closing or deleting the account
So when we delete the account
at the end of the course.
at the end of the course, so they don't, you don't get charged of creating a second
No, if you're
AWS
exactly
account.
following me, then no.
Okay. So, so what is the next step of
Follow
practice?
the video.
Okay.
Uh, do everything in the video.
Okay. And uh, yesterday, day before yesterday, my somebody sent me the job description of not the Microsoft, IBM. They're hiring, and they say we need a little knowledge of AWS and Azure. I don't have Azure knowledge. They ask for trainee people. Can I apply there?
Yeah, try to apply. I think so, but we can discuss that. Obviously, this is related to the class, so we can discuss this after this. There's
Okay.
another student who also wants to ask something.
Okay.
So
Tomorrow, inshallah.
yeah, sure. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I just sign out. If I sign out here, so I don't get charged, right?
You don't get charged. Yep.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sign out.
Yes, Vijay.
Yes, Amala. I just have a question about the IAM. So since
Yeah,
there
sure.
are so many places where you can restrict access, so if we have an IAM user claiming that they don't have access to a particular service, exactly do we start? Since there are so many places where you have to go and check.
So the thing is, if the user says that, suppose the user does not have access to EC2 instance, so you have to go to the permissions and you have to
Okay.
check that the user has in the permissions area EC2 permissions attached or
Okay.
not, right?
Okay.
So user complains anything, we go to user and then check the service in the permissions area and select whatever level of permission to give to the user.
Okay,
So
so
it's,
what if we allow the permission at permission level and then we deny it at the organization level?
then the error would much say it that
Okay.
okay, you've been denied this on, hopefully it says organization level as well.
Oh, okay,
Otherwise
okay.
deny pretty much says it all, that then we go for wherever we put the permissions, either on organization level or AWS account level.
So it's always better to start from the permission levels, right?
Exactly, yeah. And the error really tells us majority of the time where we need to go, but many
Mm-hmm.
times it's vague. Yeah, then we Google it. And then we know. But permissions related error, they're pretty easy too. They do
Okay,
show that you don't have access.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
We
Okay,
need to
guys. Yes. Uh-huh.
check the opt out or not.
No, no, we don't need to check the opt out for AI. That was just for
So,
AI. This is something different. This is just permission. You can give permission or not give permission. So it's all about that.
if we don't touch, then it's okay.
Yeah. If you don't want to use AI services, then opt out. If you do want to use it, then don't touch it. It's already
Like
enabled.
if we allow them, then they start taking our data, or what they will do.
No, they will just do some automated tasks. Then we have to read what they do. We just have to go
So
for the documentation.
it's better not to give them permission.
Right now, they have permission, but if you don't want to give them, then read the documentation. Why would you not want to?
So
Uh,
by default, they have a permission.
yes, to automatically read the data, and it's for reporting mainly, monitoring and
Okay.
reporting mainly.
By the topic, like we read a lot about organization. So uh, we want to prepare for the exam also. So for like, if you can give us like 10 question from AWS organization to prepare for exam also.
Okay, I will give the resources where those questions are, and then yeah, sure, I'll try to
Topic,
figure out that
topic
question.
wise we prepare. So at the end,
Yeah,
of
sure.
course, we prepare, we can give the exam.
Yeah, sure. We'll gather some questions.
Thank you so much.
I hope I get those. Yep. Okay, welcome. All right, guys. So see you this Saturday.